Welcome to Mastering CS Candid Leader Insights, the podcast where we dive into the world of customer success with industry leaders. I'm your host, Irina Cismas, and today I'm joined by Mark Rocklin, Director of Success Management EMEA at CloudShare, a platform that helps software companies run virtual labs for product demos, training, and technical enablement. Mark, I'm really happy to have you here. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
You came from the sales side. How different does customer success actually feel compared to account management?
It's a great question. And my background actually, it's interesting. My background originally did come from the pre-sale side, which I enjoyed, but it gave me a lot of skills when it comes to sales and relationships and building relationships. But it wasn't something that I thoroughly enjoyed as much as when I moved into the customer success and account management field. For me, it's about building lasting relationships. It's about providing value. It's about the buzzword of being a trusted advisor. I like to just call it more of a friend. The customers that I work with end up becoming true friends of mine. I've been at CloudShare for over 6 years now and have had the same customers for the better part of 6 years. The difference between customer success and account management is a really interesting one. There's a lot of overlap. Some might say that there's no overlap at all, that it's the same position called something different. The thing that I've seen mainly in the industry is that customer success typically won't hold the book of business in terms of renewals and upsells and expansions and things like that. Whereas account management will be responsible for that. So account management will be responsible for the money, and customer success is more associated with adoption. But I've seen a lot of overlap in that. So it really depends on the company that you go to and the way they define the position, because many times you'll see someone as an account manager in one company and they're doing the exact same thing as a customer success manager in a different company.
I do have some curiosities coming from your sales background, but I'm gonna leave them for later on in the conversation because
Sure.
now I wanna ask you, what does your week actually look like as Director of Success Management for EMEA at CloudShare?
Yes, so it's an interesting role. So we've been growing a lot. And as we've been growing, our roles have expanded into kind of dual functionalities. So I manage the customer success team as well. So on a day-to-day basis, I actually do still hold a book of business of my own as well. I have my own customers, ones that I've had for many years. And we keep that relationship because it's very important to us. For us, the relationship is key when it comes to providing value, when it comes to maintaining trust with our customers. So I'm still hands-on. So on a day-to-day basis, you will see me hands-on, and it actually helps. I like being on the ground level, working with customers day-to-day, working through issues, providing value, because it also helps me on that high-level side where I'm also now involved in strategic discussions of what does this customer success team look like? Where are we going in the future? What are some of the strategies that we want to implement? And what comes along with that is cross-department functionalities as well. So working with pre-sales team, working with the RevOps team, working with finance, working with HR. So I have a lot of responsibilities in that realm, specifically within the EMEA region, to make sure that we are a cohesive unit, working together cross departments and making sure that we're not siloed. So when we were a smaller company, things were very flat. It was a very flat organization, which was nice. But what we're starting to realize is you need that hierarchy to be able to grow as a company. But within that hierarchy, you're building a net. You need to make sure that you're not losing the connection between different departments and between different functions. And that's where my role comes in, to make sure that these are maintained and communication is still open.
Before I ask you what's the relationship and what processes did you build between the teams, I want to ask you why CS and operations? Why do you have two different teams that sit under you? And why? I'm curious more about the thinking process behind this decision and what led you make the separation between the two?
It's a great question. The customer success team by us has really been one of the cores of the business. Certainly the core in the revenue operations of the business and in terms of the functionality. In most organizations, certainly in SaaS-based companies, in startups and things like that, customer success is the heart of the organization. Now you have like R&D, you have sales, you have operations, but the nucleus is customer success, because customer success is your outward-facing ear on the ground, talking with your customers, engaging with them, and then it also needs to report that back into the business for product and R&D to understand where the product should be shifting, what we should be focusing on, as well as the sales. So it happens to be in CloudShare, our customer success team is also a very large part of revenue generation. One of the big philosophies was land and expand. So many of our customers start small. They're not sure if they want to engage. And we can get into the whole market of virtual labs and why that is, because that really took off from COVID times. So many customers will be like, they want to get their feet wet, but then they're going to grow from that point. So our customer success team has been a core part of that business to be able to take the customer and grow. So I think that's really what's been very important. I think the reason operations merges into customer success really is because operations is like the arm. If you're going to say customer success is the body, operations is the arm of that body. When we, in our CRM, customer success is working there every day, but operations is controlling it, making sure that everything's connected and integrating with our finance system and our billing and into product and things like that. So customer success needs to be able to go ahead and provide that information and provide that clear data to operations. So it makes sense for them to be tied together really close.
Speaking about that internal alignment that basically you need in order to support the systems that you've built, I'm curious, how did you reach that alignment between, you mentioned that you work closely with the sales and the pre-sales, you work closely with the finance, you work closely with the revenue operations. By the way, what's the difference between finance and revenue operation? Who does what? I'm curious how the CS, being in the center of everything, how they interconnect to make sure that you reach this alignment.
Great question. So specifically, our finance team deals with all the finances of the business. So you're talking about budgeting, you're talking about accounts payable, accounts receivables, things like that. Revenue operations is specifically focused on essentially maintaining our CRM and maintaining the integrations that we have between our CRM and our Deal Hub Center and how that passes through to billing. So they're maintaining and building the kind of functionality and the logic between how it flows from the deal, pre-signing of the deal, and how that goes ahead and triggers into accounts payable, accounts receivables, and collections and all sorts of things. So that's where revenue operations sits. So they maintain our CRM, make sure everything there is clean. And customer success has to focus in the middle, because what customer success is doing is, let's say you're in the heart of a deal, and this happened to me recently in the deal that I was closing right before the end of the year. And you're negotiating a deal, you're working through it with the customer, and then all of a sudden a legal question pops up. So immediately your head has to shift and you have to go to the legal team and figure out an answer. And then the terms of the deal they want to change. Now the terms of the deal, I have to go to finance and figure out if the terms align. And they have a custom clause that they want to put into the contract. That's revenue operations. So I have to go to the revenue operations to go ahead and change the terminology and add the custom line item that they want to go ahead and add. So it's all of these different little moving parts where revenue operations isn't going to talk to legal necessarily, and they're not going to talk to finance about it. And finance isn't going to talk to sales. It's going to come through us. We're filtering all that out. And we've, thank God, been really good at doing that. It's a very tough job because you're wearing multiple hats, but it's very rewarding. And when it works well, it's like a beautiful symphony. So it's gone really well for us.
What operational system has made the biggest difference in how your team runs today? It
Ooh,
might be a system or maybe just a process that it's over
it's interesting.
underappreciated, but it has a bigger impact than people realizes.
It's,
Underestimate. Sorry.
it's interesting. And I know many people are probably struggling with this as we have. We're actually going through a fundamental change within our operational systems as it sits. Our CRM used to be our kind of single source of truth. So that's probably the main one that we've worked out of. Now we're actually in the process of purchasing a CRM system, not a CRM system, a CSM system, to be able to have more of those insights into the customers and help automate different flows. So I think it's more been the process that we've put in place. It also starts from the hiring, the people that we've hired, and the process. The people in the process have made the difference. Now, it's easy to have a system in place, but if you don't have people that understand how to use the system, or they're not following the specific processes that you built out, that's where things will fall apart. So for us, it's been this process of setting up how often we should be reaching out to customers. When we reach out to them, what should we be talking about? How are we laser focused on adoption and usage of our system? Making sure that we have different touch points. One of our biggest ones, NPS scores. We make a point to, when a customer sends an NPS response and they give a feedback, we respond to every single one. And I can't tell you how much of a difference that has made to our customers, where they send this, they think nobody's reading this, nobody cares, but sure, I'll tap a score and send it back. And you probably have seen this as well so many times. I've literally received emails back from customers that we've responded to saying, wow, I didn't think anyone read this. And it makes such a difference. It makes such a difference because they feel heard. And many times that's all the customer wants. They want to feel heard. And sometimes you can help them with the issue that they're having, and sometimes you can't. But just the fact that you're there, and that's one of the fundamentals as a CSM, is you want to be there as an ear to your customer, and you want to feel heard, and they need to feel heard. And just you being there and responding to them, engaging with them, goes a long way in terms of building. It's funny. You always love to see positive NPS scores. My favorite is receiving the negative NPS scores, because to me, that's the challenge, when you can take a negative NPS score and turn someone's negative experience into a positive experience. And that's what we like to focus on.
You know what I'm curious is teams grow and you went through this process. Things that work with 500 with five customers suddenly break when you go to 500 or 1000. What was one process that in your case used to work and it didn't when you went through the journey of scaling?
This is a great question. And I have a number of examples in my head, because it's something that we have prided ourselves on for a long time, which is being very hands-on, very customer-centric. But when you do that, it's not necessarily scalable. So I have two examples. The first, I can even just stick on the NPS score, for example. The fact that we respond to every single NPS score was a very tedious task and and very time consuming. So yes, we built templates for that, but we're actually now have been in the process of automating it, because before that, when you have 10 NPS responses a day or something like that's okay. But when you start having 20, 30, 40, 50, and it's spread amongst the team, you just can't actually respond. And then you know that your response is going to lead to responses from those customers, which is going to in turn lead to more and more work. So we've started to automate that process. But what I really wanted to do is not lose the personality of the responses. So we've actually been able to build an automation that we're releasing soon, that the responses are going to come from the individual CSMs themselves, and the replies are going to go back to the CSMs themselves. So what we're doing is we're taking away a lot of those tedious tasks and automating it, but we're keeping the personal touch involved in that automation. So that's certainly one example. A lot of the individual touch points, when we build out and say these type of customers need to be reached out on a bi-weekly cadence, and these need to be reached out monthly, and these need to be reached out every 3 months, we need to have a quarterly business review. Though that process also needed to start being automated, because You don't want your CSMs to be so focused on the operational duties and the kind of the minutia of the day. You want them to be focused on the customer. So that process started breaking because as we grew, you just weren't enough hours in the day to do all the tasks that you needed to do. And even a third one, I would say, is notes. We did a lot of note taking on calls, putting that note taking into our CRM, which would take a long time to write up all that. You have a call, let's say you have back-to-back calls, and all of a sudden you're getting lost as to which call you were saying what. So automating that process. We've had to, and that's where AI has come and made a huge play into what we do, because note takers from like years past have been okay, but never necessarily accurate. But when you start creating the right prompts and being able to extract the right data and key points from a call, that's something that we've been heavily focused on as well.
You know what? I'm curious. When you walk into a company that says we need to build customer success properly, and I'm going to focus on properly, what's the first thing you actually look at? What are the ingredients to do that?
The first and foremost for me is people. It's the people that you hire, it's the CSMs that you hire that make all the difference. I've seen this on many different teams I've been on, many different teams I've built. For me, it's all about hiring the right professional people who are ambitious, who want to learn, who are humble, who are team players. That's what I look for. I don't even necessarily look for you've hit this target, that target. I look for personality, because at the end of the day, people can learn. So you're looking for personality and a willingness to learn and people who want to succeed. So first and foremost, it's the people that you hire. Secondly, it's the process that you build. So people are great, but unless you have a process that they're going to be able to follow, they can go ahead and start doing their own thing and things start to go awry and they go sideways. So it's people and it's process. And that's why I said before, third, I would say, is the systems that you have implemented. Because if you have the right people and the right process, the system will function as well. Now, things might take a lot longer, and like you said, it might break as you scale, but that's why I would rank it in that order. Yeah, I think it's very important. I think people nowadays, I've actually heard this on, I'm forgetting the name. It was a call with Steve Bartlett, who I'm sure you've heard of. And it's when you hire the wrong people, and many times nowadays, we find that it's the people who are high performers and high achievers and are willing to step on the throat of someone, next to them to be able to reach their goals. They perform in dollars and cents, but they bring the team down. So for us, it's all about having a cohesive unit that is working together and working towards a common goal. And individuals who are high achievers, if they're not the right fit, if they're not the right culture fit, they don't have a place. They don't last long. And it's funny, it's typically what happens at a place like CloudShare. CloudShare is a company that's been around for almost 2 decades. And I find very often that people who come in, they're either there, like I've been there for 6 years, and 6 years in a SaaS startup in a company is like unheard of. It's like people are hopping around here and there. I find that you can figure out very quickly the people that are going to last and the people that won't. And the people that don't, within about 12 months, they're out. They're either pushed out or they don't like it on their own. And the people that last, we have people at CloudShare that have been there for over a decade. And so it's those people that fit that culture and that fit that trajectory of growth and that mindset that really lasts.
I know what you've said. And yes, somehow everybody wants high achiever. They want overachievers into the team, jeopardizing the team cohesion. And I think this is more like a sprint rather than like a marathon. So it's all about, what do you want to have short-term success, or do you want to build something that lasts? And it tells a lot when you have people staying with the company for more than a decade. That means you have a very strong company culture and company values. And yeah, 1 year of trial to see if this is a fit or if this is the right company for you, I think it's a fair thing. And I think it's only the company culture and the company values matters more, because I realized that you can have people successful, but in the wrong environment. And it's not only because of them, it's also the environment they operate on.
And how many times have you seen that? How many times have you seen where it's the high achiever, the one who had 100% of their targets, they get promoted into the managerial position? And I'm
And
like,
then they fail.
no.
Exactly. And then they fail, and everybody asks why. Because
Yeah.
it's a different job, it's a different thing. Because management, okay, and running, it's a different thing than achieving a target. So yeah, I know what you mean. I want to ask you one last question, because you mentioned and you put focus on the hiring and all the people, and I'm curious, if you would have to start a CS organization from scratch with only 3 people, what roles would you prioritize first and why?
Oh, that's a great question. If I had to start a CS organization from scratch and I had to hire 3 people, now I'm going to go spread the net a little bit wide here. I'm going to say, A, you need an all-star CSM, because you needed someone to actually be on boots on the ground, manage the customers, and be the kind of the frontline soldier. 2, revenue operations, because it sounds, oh, that's a given. It's not really a given. Revenue operations is that back-end support that makes sure all of your data is clean, that makes sure things are running smoothly, and your CSM is not necessarily very good at that. I know many CSMs that are phenomenal at what they do, and they are the worst note takers. They are the worst at making sure everything in the system is clean and updated. And that's where revenue operations comes in. RevOps is so important. So I would say it's the CSM, it's RevOps, and then you need a team leader. You need a leader. Without leadership, there's nowhere to go. Leadership drives the vision, it drives the forward movement of the company. Many times you can get bogged down in the day-to-day. And I find that in my own day-to-day, especially the fact that I still manage a book of business, but I also manage a team, and I also have to have a strategic level of thinking. I find that you need to be able to separate the two, and you need to be able to step out, and sometimes customers have a problem and something isn't working, or they have a feature request. And the CSM, it's their job to drive that feature request back and into the business and say, they need this, I need to deliver on this to keep them happy. But then it's the leadership's job to say, wait a minute, does this feature align with where we are going as a company? Does it help other customers, or does it only help this customer? So it's very important to have that strategic mindset to say, look, I get that they need this, but how is this going to make an impact or a business change on our company globally? So that's why I would say leadership, CSM, and RevOps gives you that full circle of what you need to get started.
Mark, this was a great conversation, and I enjoy digging into how CS evolves as team scale and how operations starts to play a bigger role in making it all work. Thanks again for joining me, and to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and mastering customer success.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.